Hey guys, what's up? My name is Breaker, and in today's video I'm gonna show you how to set up OBS Studio in order to get the best possible streaming quality on Twitch. Now, if you're only interested in one of the topics that I'm covering in this current video, then I have left the timestamps to each of these topics in the description box below, so you can just skip to the topic that you're interested in. Now, before changing any settings in OBS Studio, I would always recommend you to create a new profile. This is just very handy. In case you don't like the new settings, you can just go back to your old settings and don't have to kind of figure out what you had before. So go to Profile, New, and create a new profile. So let's jump right into the settings. The first thing you want to change is in the Video tab, you have Base and Output Resolution. Now, base resolution represents your current monitor, so I'm using a 1080p monitor. And output resolution is what the viewers on Twitch are actually gonna see. And you should always do the downscaling here, guys. Don't do it later in the output tab, because here we're gonna use the GPU and not the CPU, which is just a lot better because you have more performance for the games that you're playing. So if you wanna do any downscaling, obviously you can just set this to 1080 here. Then you should do it here. And I would actually recommend you to do a bit of downscaling. Don't do 720p actually. If you have somewhat decent upload, I would always go with this one here, the 1440 x 810. Use the best possible downscaling filter because that just gives you the better looking quality on Twitch. And 60 FPS, which is basically 59.94. Now, before going into any of the other settings, we have to find out what our upload speed is. And the best method to do so is to use the Twitch bandwidth test tool. So you can find this under this link that I'm linking in the description box below. Download this tool, execute this tool, and if you have any problems with running the Twitch bandwidth tester, just run this one here and it just fixes any problems that you might have with it. Click on Get Key, which will redirect you on Twitch to where you can actually find your stream key. Click on Show Key, click on I understand, and copy the key. Paste it in here. Use the automatic OBS window size and use a short test duration. You can go with 30 seconds if you want to, or even longer tests, but I found that the difference in actually going with a long test is negligible and you don't really gain anything from this. But what you should do is actually choosing the right region. So I'm based in Europe, so I'm gonna deselect this one here because otherwise the test is gonna take forever. I'm gonna click on Start. And what this basically does is it tests the connection to each of the Twitch servers. So it tests your maximum possible connection to the server, it tests your ping, and finally it will give you an estimate of the quality that you can expect from using this server. Now, interestingly enough, representing the matchmaking experience, choosing a Polish server gives you a 0 quality. No, of course, I'm just kidding. You should obviously go with a low ping and a high quality, so you're gonna choose Frankfurt, Germany. Go back to OBS Studio, use Twitch, then look for the respective server that you have just figured out was probably the best. For me, this is Frankfurt, Germany. Paste your stream key and hit apply. Now let's talk about the output settings, and this is probably what most of you guys are really interested in this video. So what you want to do is you want to choose the advanced output mode because we really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the details in this section here. You want to work in the streaming tab, use the first audio track. And if you followed my previous tutorial on how to set up your audio, you know that we have set all of the audio to go into the first audio track. If you haven't seen this video, I'm linking it in the top right corner right now. Now let's talk about the encoder mode. And basically, if you have an NVIDIA GPU, you have two options here. The first is X264, which basically means that all of the encoding is done on the CPU. And the other one is NVENC, which means that all of the encoding is done on the GPU. Now, ideally, you want to have the least amount of lag on your system while you're gaming and streaming at the same time. And this is usually always the case if you're using the GPU for encoding, because your CPU is usually already very heavily used up by the current game that you're playing. But unfortunately, you have to think about your upload speed as well, because the NVENC codec does not really do such a good job at encoding high quality footage. So this really depends on the upload speed that you have found out using the Twitch bandwidth tester. If, for instance, you only have something like 5000 kilobits per second here, then you're gonna have to go down with the bitrate a lot. And I've actually tried this out with various different limitations on the upload speed, and what I found was that a good rule of thumb really is to choose half of the bitrate of the upload speed that you have. So if it says 6000 for example, you should choose 3000 as a bitrate. Obviously you have to keep in mind, guys, that next to live streaming the video, you also have to stream the audio. You also have to communicate the game somehow, and you also have other things on your computer that use the internet connection. So you should really make sure not to use too much of a bitrate here, because if you choose a too high bitrate, what can happen is, first of all, you're gonna have a yellow or red indicator in OBS Studio, which basically means your upload cannot keep up with the actual bandwidth that you have, or you actually lose frames. And if you actually lose or drop frames, then this really results in a bad experience for the viewers. So let's just assume you have a rather good upload speed. So we're gonna go with the NVENC standard. We will talk about the X264 in just a second, don't worry. Don't use rescale output. Always use a constant bitrate, guys. You always want to have that. It just gives you the much better quality on Twitch. If you do actually have the highest possible upload, so let's say more than 12 megabits per second, you can use 6000 here. Twitch has actually upgraded their maximum requirements for streamers, as you can see here. Even if you're not partnered, you're allowed to stream at 6000 kilobits per second, and it's actually even recommended. Use a keyframe interval of 2. The high quality preset is what you want to choose with the NVENC standard. Use the high profile and make sure to disable 2-pass encoding. This basically just slows down your system and is not going to help the video quality a tremendous amount, so I always disable it here. But here you'll see an overview of the different qualities that you can expect when having different upload speeds, choosing different bit rates, and you can also see the difference of using NVENC versus the X264 encoder. Now you can see that NVENC is doing actually a rather decent job with the image quality. You get very low CPU usages when using NVENC, around 3 to 5%, whereas if you're using X264 for encoding, your OBS is actually using around 15 to 20% of your CPU. On the other hand, if you go down with your bitrate because you don't have such a high upload, you can see that the NVENC codec is actually struggling quite a bit with keeping up a nice image quality. And in that case, I'm afraid you don't really have another option than to use the X264 codec or your CPU for streaming. Now, if this is the case for you, if you have to use the X264 codec, you want to use the following settings. So go with CBR again, this is always the best setting. The minimum bitrate that I found had still a reasonable video quality on Twitch was about 2500 kilobits per second. If you don't have a higher upload speed, so for example, if you only have 4 megabits per second, then you should really consider if you actually want to live stream. In that case, by the way, I also recommend you to use 720 or even lower resolutions here. But let's go back to the bitrate. So if you can stream at 2500, for example, if you have a 5 megabit upload, use a keyframe interval of 2. Now, the CPU preset is another thing that kind of varies depending on your CPU. Now, if you have a very good CPU, you might want to consider to go higher than very fast. So basically anything below very fast is worse quality, but it uses less CPU, and anything higher than very fast uses more CPU, but gives you a nicer quality on the stream. Unfortunately, even for me, I have a quad core at 5 GHz, I cannot really run anything higher than very fast, so chances are you cannot really run faster on your CPU either. For the profile, we want to choose high once again. Don't pick anything for tune or X264 options. Okay, so we've talked about the audio tab in my previous video, you can check it out over here again. We've looked at the video tab. You can set up hotkeys, so you can set up a hotkey for changing between scenes, you can set up a hotkey for recording or to start and stop your stream. But because this is quite straightforward, we're just gonna head on to the Advanced tab. Now, what you can do here is if you have problems that OBS Studio is using up too much of your resources and it has an impact on the game you're playing, is that you can set the process priority to something below normal. I wouldn't recommend you to use idle, but you can use below normal, and that might improve the gaming performance just a tiny winsy little bit. Now in video format, you want to use the Direct 3D obviously. You want to use the NV12 color format. This basically describes the chroma subsampling, and it's not really important, just use NV12. Use the YUV color space 709 and the YUV color range 4. Now this full color range basically describes that all the colors from 0 to 255 can be encoded, and basically on a PC monitor you always have the full color range, and if you select partial, then OBS has actually to adjust the color range to a smaller color range, and basically I guess uses a little bit more CPU power. So what you really want to do is use full here for the best performance and the best video quality. Now the final setting you want to do is add a stream delay, and I would always recommend you really to use a stream delay, because stream sniping is real and it's really annoying for both you and your team, and it's just unfair. So always have something like a 20-second stream delay so people cannot snipe your stream. And that is it. These are the magic tricks on how to get the best possible quality on your live streams on Twitch. If you still have any questions, don't hesitate to leave them in a comment section down below. Smash that like button if you like this video, or smash that dislike button if you didn't. But come on, that was amazing. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video.